Hey guys, it's James.
And it's James.
It's Joel.
And we're going to record a audio-only reaction to last night's Game of Thrones 609, The Battle of the Bastards. Normally we do a live stream after show, but we just kept having technical difficulties this week, and it was very frustrating, and we just couldn't get it to work. And my computer ended up just blowing up because of it. So that's something I have to deal with tomorrow. But in the meantime, we wanted to record our thoughts and opinions. Obviously, we won't have any interaction with you, the listener, since this is from the past. But we still wanted to get something down for posterity before we have our edited review in our What's on the Box series, which will come out later this week. So, hey guys, what did you think of that episode?
Initial reactions, I loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Joel?
Yeah, I had a really satisfying experience with it. Like, the direction in this episode of the battle was fantastic.
I think that's definitely the greatest strength of this episode is the direction. I think there were some good moments from a script. I think there were some good moments on a script level. I'm repeating myself like we're going to edit it later, but this isn't going to be edited. I think there were some great moments on a script level, but I think that the hallmark of this episode is the direction, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, especially coming after the previous two episodes directed by, was it Mark
Mylod?
Is that it? Mark Mylod?
Mylod?
I think it must be Mylod.
However you pronounce it, the direction was so poor in those episodes, just on a character understanding level. And you know, this is mostly action in the Battle of the Bastards, so who knows if this guy understands the characters as much, but just the battle directing was so good. It was something out of a movie. It was better than movies.
I do think, though, that he has an understanding for character, because this is the same guy who Miguel Sapochnik?
Yeah, that sounds right.
This is the same guy who directed Hard Home and was able to mine such, Joel and I were just talking about it off mic, was able to mine such character, what do you want to call that? Empathy, I guess?
Just introducing a character.
Right. The one Wilding chick, remember that gal?
Oh yeah, Hard Home.
Was so strong in the way that he was able to introduce her, get us to care about her, and then really, really care that she ultimately died in that episode. I think he definitely has that, and a point that Chelsea made that I just love. When we were still trying to stream our discussion about Ramsay and the way that he fights, I think it shows a great understanding of the character, and I wonder.
And yeah, that's that he's hanging out in the back. He's commanding from the back,
from the rear, right?
Using bow and arrow, a ranged weapon. Even though the Boltons are known for torture and knives, like when he has someone captive, he's plenty fine flaying them. But when it comes down to battle, he's attacking from afar.
Sure, and contrast that with the way that John commands from the front. Way the front.
Oh yeah,
maybe a little too far front. John. And speaking of Chelsea, she had to get to bed because of work, so that's why she's not in on this this poor substitute for a live stream. Oh god, that was so frustrating.
I bet people, though, we're gonna get comments that are like, "You should just do podcasts." Like, we're gonna get.
Hey, it's an idea. It's been floated. We'll think about
Joel's
it, guys.
been pushing that for a while.
Yeah. I want to say on the idea of this being, better than movies, comparable to movies, the direction it evoked a lot of action scenes, period specific, and also even comparisons to Saving Private Ryan would fit in some ways. I think I most thought of Alejandro Inarritu and The Revenant, just that long shot where you're kind of just in the midst of the battle, John moving, people around him dying left and right, just coincidence letting him survive the hail of arrows coming down, and just capturing kind of the randomness I thought was incredible.
It's chaos.
Yeah, and we think at one point even killed one of his own men. There was a Bolton that...
It did seem like it, I agree.
Like he attacked someone who was clearly a Bolton with the helmet on, who was fighting someone else, and then John killed both.
Yeah, I think that single take that you mentioned was amazing.
Yeah, that's the highlight of the episode, I think.
I think so, yeah.
And then everything around it was still fantastic.
Yeah, the cool thing is it's not the only high point. Similar to Hardhome. I remember feeling the same way about Hardhome. It had that amazing sword fight between Jon and that other, and it's easy to point to that and be like, that was the best. Or even the Night's King, like, raising the dead. But everything around those moments was just as good, and everything around these moments, I felt, was just as good in this episode. There were so many different set pieces throughout both the battle here and the battle in Marine, and like the suffocating and getting trampled, that was so visceral and such. They were so anxiety inducing.
It was something that I haven't seen in a fantasy battle. It was something that I don't think I've seen in any kind of large scale battle sequence. Was the first shot where you realize that they're fighting on top of mounds of bodies.
Yeah,
was spectacular, and it was really like, oh, like it was, yeah, like you said, Joel, visceral. Just this kind of, these are people that have become the battlefield.
and there were a lot of shots of that, like the guy with the leg ripped off crawling up the pile of corpses, and the guy trying to push his intestines back in. Is that also a Saving Private Ryan shot?
Intestines is Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. And then I thought of the Saving Private Ryan shot where the guy takes off his helmet and gets shot in the head, because there's that shot where a guy saves Jon and Jon grabs him to tell him a command or something, and then that guy just gets an arrow through the face. Jon has to move on.
There are a couple times when Jon nearly, gets his head taken off himself, but an arrow or someone else, maybe one just like smacked a guy right out of the way, just in time.
The horses, the way that they really, I feel like they really invoke just how powerful of a weapon a horse in this type of battle was. The importance of the mounted cavalry was reinforced not only in the initial charge, but also later in the when the Knights of the Vale finally arrive.
And that's one of my favorite things about this episode too, is that it went over battle tactics in Jon's War Council. In a show that has so many battles and is so focused around wars, I don't think many people who are watching are that interested in military strategy. So I forgive them for not having a bunch of scenes where they're plotting out strategy. But to give us some of that in this episode where it is so focused on a battle, it was very rewarding. I really liked seeing Davos and Jon and Tormund talking about the different battle strategies and what they could do to beat Ramsay even with the lesser numbers.
I appreciated that in that scene and in the battle itself, that we saw that the wildlings are very good at some things, but they are not trained in military tactics. Tormund and the rest didn't know how to combat being surrounded by shields that way. They were just sort of knocking themselves against it and getting killed. And similarly, I think that it was really interesting to see the conversation between Jon and Sansa that followed the War Council, where you got to see just not only that it was kind of bleak, but how few options that they had. Like, they really paid attention to the specifics of this battle going into it.
What I really loved about that scene, too, is the way, and this goes back to your earlier point of the director's understanding of character. And yes, the dialogue was scripted, but I think that it was captured in a very specific way, too. When Davos and Jon explained to Tormund, like you said, Joel, what it means to be surrounded, the pincher and all of that. And then later that argument between Jon and Sansa. I think what that's really capturing is the emotion at the core of this fight, and the different perspectives that Sansa and Jon have of it. They're both very emotional, but I think that Sansa is dealing with it from what she's experienced, and they're both dealing it with what they've experienced. But Jon is looking at it as, I have faced insurmountable odds before. What are men versus the undead? And then Sansa is looking at this as, no, you are up against the worst thing in the world. And that, because in Sansa's world, there's nothing that's ever been worse than Ramsay. Even Joffrey is not worse than Ramsay for Sansa.
And to her point, Jon has never known anyone like Ramsay.
Right.
None of his human enemies have ever been cut from Ramsay's cloth.
Even his inhuman enemies, like the Night's King strategy really is just come at you with my indestructible army, whereas Ramsay has this kind of very specific tactical advantage. And I think that that's one thing that he did do very, very deftly was the archers, the cavalry charge, and the phalanx were the perfect strategy to try to defeat Jon, and he would have won if not for the Knights of the Vale.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing in this episode a lot of people speaking from experience and trying to convince other people of how much that experience is important to the situation that they're confronting. Even in Meereen, we're also seeing Tyrion advise based on what he knows of the people of Westeros, based on what he knows of the people of the Iron Islands, and seeing how people trust or don't trust each other.
He even brings up his experience with Theon from
Yeah.
Winterfell.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that was an interesting theme to see played out, and possibly next episode we'll see that played out even more.
Yeah. Can we dip into Meereen? Is that fine?
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure we'll come back to Winterfell.
Yeah, I mean, where else can we
much.
go?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the first time, I was thrilled to see Meereen. I was so excited to be in Meereen, and then when it cut away from it, I was sad, and when it came back to it, I was happy. I've never had those feelings about Meereen before, Jim.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that they handled this stuff really, really well. I loved, again, from a directing perspective, there were a couple just fabulous shots following that the tar ball into the city.
Yeah, the first, which they repeat again with
an
the
arrow,
arrows.
yeah.
And I didn't even mind. I like that it connected the Battle of Fire and the Battle of Ice.
Yeah, I really loved that long shot of the one master. I don't remember which city he's from. Mocking Dany, and then in the deep background you can see Drogon flying in.
Oh, Joel lost it at that point. Yeah, he was laughing so hard. It's a great shot.
Yeah, I think that was incredibly well staged, where they have the battle kind of playing out behind them, and the confidence that Dany and her whole entourage show, knowing that they have this kind of trump card in the dragons. And the Dothraki, who show up led by Dario and take out the Sons of the Harmeet.
That was a great reveal of the Dothraki. I think it convincingly showed just the horror at what it would be to see this giant horde coming at you. And then my favorite was the edit cut from the head flying through the air to the dragon swooping through the air. Mm-hmm. It's like a match cut, and it's beautiful. I love it.
This episode was incredibly well edited. I think, with staying on Meereen and talking about editing, I think it was a wonderful cut from action in Winterfell directly to Tyrion addressing Yara and Theon, and not seeing Yara and Theon arrive. I think that from an editing perspective, that was an excellent choice, and that scene was very well constructed. Their whole audience.
Yeah, I liked seeing in that scene and in the earlier scenes the kind of working relationship that Dany and Tyrion might have. They balanced each other well, and they trusted each other. She could have shown up and just written Tyrion off as having failed, but I think she saw his value, what he was actually able to do, and what could still be done. And I think that she was also able to kind of restrain him when he has a lot of feelings about Theon in that scene, and maybe some of them are personal, maybe some of them are practical, but I think she is able to recognize what's being offered in front of her, and with his advice, be able to see this as a good offer, and also be able to see earlier that maybe taking out and just burning to the ground the other slaver cities is not the best idea.
Yeah, I really like that we didn't get a scene of Dany tearing Tyrion a new asshole. To have her just recognize that there's this new problem and they need to address it showed a lot of maturity from Dany, and I think, like you said, she recognizes his value. Yeah.
And that the other thing that scene did was totally set up how Cersei's gonna burn King's Landing to the ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if we weren't sure after last week, although after all of our failed predictions,
been wrong before.
Yeah, who knows how sure we are of anything after saying 1,000% Lady Stoneheart was going to show up. But yeah, we have Tyrion talking extensively about the hordes of wildfire underneath the Sept of Baelor, underneath the thoroughfares. Cersei's going to be
just to remind you.
Yeah, just to set it up, man.
God, man.
I don't know how it's going to happen in one episode remaining, but it's gonna, right?
I hope they do it this season.
I mean, I don't know if we're going to see the full completion of that act, but I think we're definitely going to see the wire fire at least set off.
I hope so, because that was a lot of setting up for it in this episode. And then that scene with Yara and Theon at the Iron Islands. Love that we just cut straight to it, like you said, no arrival, no time wasted.
Right.
And then Yara and Dany is so awesome.
Yeah, Yara's the first Westerosi highborn lady that Dany has ever interacted with.
Maybe the first Westerosi woman ever.
One of her, Doria, I think, was Westerosi.
Was she, or was she just from the Free Cities?
No, I think she was Westerosi originally. It's not a huge issue. Either way, this is another woman in power. I think that's the real important thing to take away from this, is that this is another woman in power that Dany's talking to. This is essentially another queen. She's being presented as Queen of the Iron Islands. Theon is saying, no, it's her right to rule. I'm unfit to rule. He's giving his support to a woman. It's these two women who are making this pact. And I think that that's something that's very important. There's been the War of the Five Queens has been thrown around around the internet, and I think that we're seeing the real beginnings of that potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily a war, but the rise of these ruling women between Dany, Yara, Sansa, Marjorie,
Dorne,
and Cersei.
Not
No,
Dorne.
shut up,
Stop it,
Joel.
Joel.
Not Dorne.
it's gonna happen.
It is going to happen. Somebody in the chat, when we still had a chat, was upsetting everybody else, saying that Dorne is still very important and they have to come back to Dorne because Dorne supports Dany. I hope if they do, they figure out a way to fucking fix it.
I hope that
Hey, Doria. By the way, Doria was Lysine.
Oh, you were right.
Yeah, I was right.
Okay.
And Yara is the first
Westerosi woman. Yeah.
I hope some other house just rides into Dorne at some point in the show, and just like all the people are gone. It's just a mysterious event. We've never seen them again.
Well, that's it's funny you bring that up, because that's how they originally avoided being conquered. Is they just hid.
That's true. Yeah.
That's a fun fact.
But yeah, overall, Marine, I think that we got some really, really great stuff in the Marine. God, how good did the dragons look?
Oh yeah.
That CGI was.
Oh, but yeah. Before we talk about dragons, just like the respect that Dany
yeah.
was giving to Yara was great to see, and then the flirtatious nature that Yara had with Dany. Now that we know that she's into women, is so fun. And I like that Dany wasn't offended or all that. She seemed almost complimented.
Yeah, right. Totally.
Yeah, she was into it. She just had that little smile, and I like that it was a conversation between them.
Yeah, totally.
Dany barely looked at Theon. It was all at Yara. Oh God, it was so good seeing them in that handshake. I know that each of them looked to their male counterpart for approval before the agreement, but I just think that's advisor.
Yeah, I agree. We wouldn't even be bringing that up if it was two dudes.
Yeah.
Like they're just making sure they're making the right decision with people that they trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they're not looking for approval. They're looking for support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, you look like you're squirming with something to say.
You got something?
You got something, man?
I mean,
You just want to ship Yara and Dany?
All day, all day. I feel like
No pun intended.
Damn it. I feel like for Tyrion to make the point about everyone thinks they're the smartest when they're making imp jokes. I mean, I feel like Varys has heard every eunuch joke.
Yeah,
and for Tyrion to keep
Tyrion.
making them, like, Tyrion, buddy, you're talking about your own habits right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I think
buddy.
that the difference is that they have a familial relationship that Tyrion. Yeah, no, I think.
Does Varys like it? It's okay by him.
Varys and Tyrion are buds, and I think that's just their relationship.
No, don't excuse those crappy jokes.
No, they're terrible jokes and they shouldn't exist. But I'm just saying, I'm saying that Tyrion it's okay for Tyrion to be offended at the way that Theon treated him, because remember early Theon? Theon was awful. Theon sucked.
Yeah,
I don't remember their interaction. Early Theon was, of course, the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
I
was
still haven't
cocky
forgiven
and
Theon.
yeah.
Maybe.
Well, even just ignoring the things that he did when he took Winterfell, just like Theon as ward of Ned Stark was a piece of shit.
He's like, ooh,
different
these
kind of
direwolves.
piece of shit, but a
Maybe I
piece of
should
shit.
slaughter them.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
I don't take orders from you. I take them from your father. Like,
Why'd you give him the Jon Snow voice?
I don't know, because I can't do Theon. Theon's got a weird accent.
I think the only other thing I have to say about Marine is that scene where Grey Worm kills the 2 slave masters and leaves the one bowing was so awesome. I love that. I figured he wasn't just going to straight up kill the one who they turned on.
Yeah.
But it was done in such a nice way. And just the classic leaving one person alive to go tell tales of your merciful but fearsome ruler. Loved it. Loved seeing it. I also like that in that shot with the guy still on his knees, Tyrion finally gets to look down at someone.
Yes.
Physically.
I loved that.
That was great.
I loved
It was
that.
interesting to see that being shot that way.
It was also nice to see Peter Dinklage get to do some real heavy lifting acting-wise. I think that's something that he hasn't really gotten to do for a while, and I think in that negotiation scene and the earlier scene with Dany, he got to kind of flex his muscles a little bit in a way that he hasn't in the last few episodes. Either he hasn't been in them, or he's kind of just been like in the so that scene in particular where he was looking down on the master and kind of patting him on the shoulder and everything, I thought that was Peter Dinklage is amazing. In case you all forgot, really great stuff.
One thing we're thinking about, Graessle and I, before we move on from Marine, is where exactly were the other 2 dragons? Because what I thought is that they had been freed and they were off feeding, and then they would just fly back in. But they busted out of a wall like they were still being kept in captivity.
They were underneath the pyramids. I think originally chained underneath the pyramids. Tyrion unchained them.
That was the difference.
And when he unchained them, I remember we had a discussion of, there must be some kind of like garage door, back door that they can exit from. I guess not. I guess it just let them roam around down there.
So they were still being fed, obviously, because they're still alive.
Presumably.
But they were now free to just kind of chill.
Just move around.
Yeah, stretch their legs.
Get a walk in
They could
or
move
two.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't entirely get why they would have chained him up in the first place instead of just letting that be the case right off the bat. But, now they're out.
And good for them that they could have escaped this entire time, but they're like, we're cool with this. We're going to chill here for a minute.
They probably heard Drogon
Well, the other
screeching.
thing that I'm curious about is Dany seems to have a very strong handle on Drogon at this point. Like he seems to do what she wants before she even says anything.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of connection there beyond? Is there some sort of magical kind of? She's not a warg. We haven't had any kind of reason to believe that. But do we think that there's some kind of thing where like Rhaegal and Viserion like knew that Dany was around, or do you think it was just they heard Drogon?
Is it kind of like a dog recognizing the ultimate alpha? If multiple dogs in a household, and there being an alpha there, but then the alpha of them is the owner.
Well, I definitely think Rhaegal and Viserion
I think so.
are taking just a lead from
Drogon.
Yeah, from Drogon, who Dany probably does have some kind of connection with beyond just verbal. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
but his entrance was spectacular.
Yeah, that was great. And then we were all like, all 3 dragons start burning one ship, and we were like, why are you doing that? Spread out. And then it's like, oh wait, she needs those ships.
Yeah.
It
continues her trend of like scaring people into following her.
Yeah.
Like the other Unsullied, who Grey Worm is like, you could either fight for these assholes or run away, and they're like, we're gonna run away.
Yeah.
Run away.
I am a little bummed that's probably it for the Battle of Marine. Like, that's probably it, right? We're not going to...
No, yeah, it's over.
Yeah, the battle's over. So, just from a, being a book snob, I got to get at least one of these in an episode. In the books, just the tactical warfare going on in the Battle of Marine in the Winds of Winter spoiler chapters that have been released are just really... It's just so complex. There's no way the show could have done it. But you just have so many different forces in so many different areas outside of Marine.
Well, I think that the Battle of Fire in the books is going to be the largest scale battle in the series.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So
whereas this, we had dragons burning one ship and the Dothraki horde coming up on like a dozen harpies.
Right. I don't think we're ever going to get a battle a single battle in the TV series that's going to match Blackwater in terms of scope and armies involved.
I don't know. I feel like the Battle of the Bastards did it.
No, as far as no, I mean, yeah, the Battle of the Bastards was excellent to watch, and it was epic as a television show. I loved it. I think it far exceeded Blackwater. I'm saying bird's eye view.
Oh, like numbers and everything? Okay.
Right, like the biggest battle in terms of numbers.
Blackwater was that much bigger than...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like with, Stannis' whole army, however many ships he had.
Yeah, that's true.
Plus, then you had the Tyrell force, which I think they say in the show might have been like 50,000, 100,000, something spectacularly big. Yeah.
And this was what, just 6,000 on
3?
Yeah, until the Knights of the Vale showed up.
Right.
Which, the Knights show up, they save everything. We all knew it was going to happen. I've already read some criticism that the episode was predictable. So.
I think we should talk about what we think about that.
Okay.
Those critiques.
Yeah. I think that arguments of predictability aren't a fair criticism at this episode because, you're saying that it's predictable that Jon and Sansa were going to win? Yes, because that's how stories are told. It just wouldn't make any narrative sense, and it wouldn't be fulfilling, I don't think, if Ramsay won and killed Jon and Sansa. Everyone says that Game of Thrones is a show full of they'll kill anyone at any time, but that's not true. The characters earned their deaths. Ned and Robb earned their deaths. They weren't out of left field. They made mistakes that led to their death. And the surprising thing was that we had been built up to see them as these protagonists. We related to them. And so that's what was shocking about it. It wasn't shocking because it was totally random. And because that's just not good storytelling if it's totally random.
Yeah.
So I think that saying it's too predictable is saying, I don't know what else you would want. What would you want to keep it from being predictable? We are on the downward slope of this story. The whole series is close to wrapping up. We know that Jon is going to be a big figure in the end, and that Ramsay probably isn't. We know that Dany's going to be a big figure in the end. So I don't think it's predictable that Jon and Dany live to fight another day or that Jon takes over Winterfell. And I think more specifically is that the episode actually succeeded in surprising me even when I knew that these big outcomes were going to happen. There were two moments in this episode where I did actually worry about Jon surviving.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh my God, are they actually going to kill Jon again? It's when he's by himself and Ramsay's troops are charging him on horse, and then when he's getting suffocated underneath all those corpses. I actually feared for him. So I think that's surprising in itself. I think we all knew Rickon was going to die, but I didn't know that he'd be running while Ramsay was shooting arrows. And then that second to last one, thought would kill him. It didn't. It missed. And so for a second, I thought Rickon would actually make it. And then when he does get the arrow through him, I scream because it's good storytelling.
Yeah, that's another piece of excellent directing, too, is that prior to the final arrow that kills Rickon, we see Ramsay shoot each failed arrow, but we don't see the arrow that kills Rickon, which I think is an amazing choice, a really great choice. I, too, was like, maybe he's gonna make it. Are we gonna get another Stark reunion? I was really, they had me for a minute, even though I knew intellectually that Rickon was a goner.
Yeah.
And the same kind of thing, like what you said with those other two moments with Jon. I knew intellectually Jon's gonna make it through this episode, but in the moment, I was caught up in it, and I was like, oh my God, are they actually gonna do it? And I think that makes this a successful episode, even though, it was predictable that Jon's gonna come out on top, Sansa's gonna come out on top. But we can still see the fallout of these things. So even though we finally get a triumphant moment in Game of Thrones, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. And we have plenty of time to see the ramifications of this. Okay, the two largest armies, which were already small to begin with, in the north, are decimated. So if you go and extrapolate from that, eventually the big bad of the White Walkers are going to come down, and there's nobody left to fight them. So even though this is a triumphant moment, the bad is still bubbling up, and it's still Game of Thrones to subvert the kind of heroes kind of journey that we see.
And also, Joel, do you have something? Okay. Also, speaking of the fallout from this, what's it going to cost them to have the Knights of the Vale? We see in the preview for the next episode, Littlefinger telling Sansa, you know what I want? And I think we do know what he wants. It's from Half Baked.
Okay.
That was a Half Baked reference.
Okay,
I thought
I was going to say, you
I thought it was your
cosplays
worst
Littlefinger.
Aiden Gillen ever.
Hey, maybe next season that's what he'll choose for his accent.
Oh, next season, huh?
Yeah. Oh, he'll make it to next season
Yeah, I
because
think
I
he will.
think what he wants is Sansa's hand in marriage
I
and to
agree.
be Lord of Winterfell. And I
agree.
think that he'll get it. I hope that he'll get it. I want to see
hope he
Littlefinger on
doesn't.
top for as long as possible until he falls at the hands of Sansa. And I know that she kind of got to kill Ramsay by like releasing the hounds on him, but I expect her
Her
to
Mr. Burns moment.
Yes.
yes, but I expect her to like hands on sword kill Littlefinger with Widow's Wail if we want to get into it.
With Widow's Wail? How's she going to get Widow's Wail?
Littlefinger probably already has Widow's Wail. Oh man, I'm thinking of the books.
Yeah.
Where's Widow's Wail in the show? The last time we saw it,
Tommen has it.
maybe, probably.
He never wears a sword, though.
Presumably.
Yeah.
So we don't know where it is in the show. In the books, there's some hints that he had it smuggled into the Vale in tapestries. But just
Right.
the thing that would make thematic sense is one, it's made from ice. It's made
Right.
from Ned Stark's Valyrian steel sword. And two, it's the only Valyrian steel sword that's made in a way that Sansa would be able to handle it.
Because it's smaller.
It's smaller. It was made for Joffrey, who was still, not yet fully grown.
right.
And Valyrian steel is lighter and more easily to handle than regular steel. So Sansa could conceivably use
Wield it, yeah.
Wield it, yeah. Even though she's a fair
There's
lady.
also the cat's paw dagger.
There is, yeah, which could come back into play.
Yeah.
Just want to check if we're still recording.
Yeah, that cat's paw dagger for sure.
Yeah?
Show watcher over here.
The
Not
cat's
knowing
paw
anything
dagger's
about
in the
this.
show.
Have they ever said the name?
Oh, yeah.
Which one is this?
This
The
is-
one that
this
was
is the
used
dagger
to
that
to
was
kill,
to-
attempted to kill Bran?
Attempted
Yeah.
to kill Bran.
Oh,
Littlefinger
okay.
is in
I've never heard the
possession.
name before.
Oh,
I just heard
well,
dagger.
It was the dagger wielded by the cat's
The
paw.
cat's paw.
That's the assassin's name?
He's a cat's paw.
A cat's paw is a thing, Joel.
A cat's paw?
Yeah, it's someone who takes the fall.
It's a toady.
It's the cat's paw.
What?
It's an expression.
In Westeros
no,
or in life?
In life.
I've never the fall guy?
Yeah, the fall guy is a cat's
A
paw.
cat's paw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it, man.
Yeah, I've never heard of this before.
Today I learned
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have that whatever.
on the What's on the Box podcast.
Yeah, make sure you link
I'm
us.
gonna have whatever mental thing is where you like notice everything now that you've
Oh,
like, heard
yeah.
that. Yeah,
You'll
that
probably
phenomenon.
not. You'll probably only
Yeah,
notice
that's
in
probably
I'm gonna-
not going to come up.
Every day I
day.
hear cat's paw. I was gonna just add to the idea of Fallout. In addition to the armies of the North not being substantial or united anymore, I'm curious to see what the fallout's going to be with Davos, with Jon and Melisandre.
Oh yeah, that was all set up with no payoff this episode.
Yeah, this episode we got an interesting scene where Jon just wonders about what kind of god the Lord of Light is, and I don't think Jon is beholden to the Lord of Light, but I'm curious about what he feels his relationship is to the Lord of Light or that religion, or his purpose overall, given that he was brought back by some power that's supernatural, and whether he's going to have any sympathy for Melisandre when he learns what Davos has to tell him.
I don't think he will. I don't
No.
think R'hllor means anything to him.
No. I think Jon, if pressed for religion, I think Jon is still going to be of the old gods.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't recall if it was in the show. This detail sounds like a book only detail. But the thing that made Jon eventually say no to Stannis in regards to legitimizing him and giving him Winterfell, yeah, this is definitely book only,
Yep.
is that Stannis tells Jon that he has to burn the werewood,
Oh.
the God's wood,
Oh.
Yeah.
because for the Lord of Light. And it's
Yeah.
that thing that makes Jon finally say, no, I can't do this.
Oh, that's interesting.
So Jon, at least in the books, does feel a connection to the gods of old. But I mean, it's still shown in the show. That's where he took his knights.
he took his Night's
Watch
Watch
oath,
vows in
yeah.
front of a heart tree instead of in a sept. I think that the God's Wood issue could still come up in theory, but probably not.
Probably
I think
not.
more likely we're going to get a rampaging Davos. Like, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah, Davos looked pissed.
Yeah, I mean, this was his surrogate daughter in a lot of ways, and I think that, in addition to the predictability, another big criticism is like, why hasn't Davos been wondering what happened to Shireen before. I think he knew that she died. I think he just assumed that she died.
Probably from the cold.
Yeah, from the cold.
Conditions were bad.
Yeah, conditions were bad.
She was a weak little girl.
Yeah, or in the raid on the camp or in the battle. There's many instances where Shireen could have died in a way that was not voluntarily burned by her father. But now that he does know, I do think that there's going to be some follow. I don't expect John to stick up for Melisandre. I think Melisandre has served her narrative purpose, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Davos take her out.
It's interesting that the big moment, quote unquote, of the premiere was at the end with Melisandre revealing her real age, and nothing's really come of that.
Well, this is where I think that we could get a payoff for that, because in theory, if Davos were to kill her, would she revert to an old lady? Would that be her final act of, like, magic?
Maybe. I don't know what purpose that would serve. I just don't know. I mean, she served such a big role in those first 2 episodes, bringing Jon back, and then she has seriously been sidelined ever since. And it makes sense, like we said, as they were recruiting northern houses, they're not going to want to bring in a red priestess to these guys who worship the old gods. It just wouldn't look good in their, yeah.
I feel like something else has to happen, because if it's just a matter of them tying up a loose end, they could have either dealt with it sooner, or if now is the time that they need to deal with it, then I wonder how much of a conversation it's going to be. If they put it in the preview, I feel like maybe that's either it's a good tease or there's maybe more to it than that.
I'm hoping there's more to it.
I agree. I hope that there's more to it. Davos is a reasonable person, and even though he's very emotional in this instance, I think he would see reason if there was a reason to give. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's going to have to be a pretty damn good reason.
It might be... my thinking is, if there's some kind of demonstration of power, like Jon being brought back from the dead is one, if there can be something else that happens or that needs to happen, if there's, I don't think the wall's going to come down, but if something else dire happens with the White Walkers, some other threat that appears this episode,
I mean, they took Winterfell ostensibly to have a home base against the others and the White Walkers.
Right.
So, the fact that she could probably be of use in that upcoming war, maybe that's reason enough. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that would be convincing enough for Davos in this emotional state that he's sure to be in.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm also looking forward to seeing Jon and Sansa get to know each other better, figure out what kind of, working relationship that they could have. Hopefully filled with more trust, and hopefully they just talk to each other about what they know and how they could actually help each other more.
I hope we get some good dialogue scenes coming up, because now at Winterfell, at this point, you have not only Jon and Sansa, but you have Littlefinger, Davos, Melisandre, Tormund, Bronzion Royce. Like, there's
Brienne's got to be getting back soon.
In theory, coming back.
Yeah.
You have a lot of really important characters who have a lot of things to say, all in one place, and I'm really interested to hear what they have to say, and I hope we get to see it.
I know. Can you imagine just a big scene with all of them
just
sitting at a table?
Debating the next move?
That would be great. I don't feel as though that's Game of Thrones style. They usually pair characters up. So I could see Sansa and Littlefinger talking, and then Sansa goes to Jon and talks, which I'm sure will be great scenes.
Which is fine, but what I want to see, though, is I agree with you. I think that Game of Thrones is great when it's 2 characters talking, but I want to see interesting pairings of those 2 characters.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll get Sansa and Littlefinger. I'd love to see Littlefinger talk to Jon.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Littlefinger?
Yeah.
They've never talked.
They've never spoken.
Littlefinger's
never
go
been
up to
this far
Winterfell.
north.
And I want Sansa to have prepared Jon for that conversation. I really want him to know.
I'd rather he go in
Really?
cold. I want to see what that kind of reaction is, because Jon is really Jon is a pretty decent judge of character.
He is.
He usually reacts to people in a way that's very instinctual and gets a good sense of who they are.
Does he?
Yeah.
He doesn't know Ramsay entirely. I feel like this episode he's falling to several traps that he could have just easily died in had the Knights of the Vale not shown up.
I think he understands. He gets an idea of who Ramsay is, and he understands that Ramsay is going to make the first move. But I think what he underestimates is how manipulative Ramsay is. So even though Jon gets an idea of who Ramsay is, Ramsay has a better idea of how he can emotionally manipulate Jon.
Yeah.
So But you look back and you look at like how did Jon first interact with Stannis? How did he interact with Mance? How did he interact with Qhorin Halfhand?
He also didn't like Theon.
He didn't like Theon. He didn't, he had a respect and admiration for J.R. Mormont right away. He's had, Qhorin Halfhand. He's had good judges of character throughout, and I think that it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to Littlefinger cold, because I think he'll get a sense of how Littlefinger is completely disingenuine. I also am curious to see how somebody like, you know what, we might not even see him anymore, and this might just be me being a book reader wanting to see the character, but like Bronzion Royce is a big deal in the Vale, and like I want to see him react to a bastard who's been placed in power. Like there's all this political kind of stuff that we could get that we probably won't.
Probably not. There's way too much to cover in this finale because we have Bran. We saw Bran in the preview, so
Right.
we're probably going to get some Tower of Joy closure, hopefully.
God, I hope so.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So there will be that. Hopefully we'll see him in the present also with Benjen and get just a sense for what their plan is. Because last time we saw them, it almost sounded like they were planning on moving south.
Right.
But one or both of them should really know that if Bran goes past the wall with his mark, that it just spells bad news with the Night's King. We're also going to have all this King's Landing stuff coming to a head. And if Cersei goes crazy and burns down Winterfell, the thing we think has to happen before that is Tommen dying. Like, right?
Tommen could die in the conflagration, though.
Maybe, but I figured maybe.
And
But would Cersei risk Tommen's life with a wildfire plot? Is what I'm asking.
I think so. If he's
But she loves her children, Joel.
Yeah, but as you guys said in the last What's on the Box, she's not seeing them as autonomous people, and he's made some moves against her. We also talked.
Nothing's gonna turn. I don't think anything will turn her away from her children.
But if she's pushed to the point where she completely loses, she might view dying with Tommen as a better alternative to dying without him.
That was the case in Blackwater when she almost poisoned
Exactly.
herself and him.
Exactly.
Wish we had Chelsea here. She has some good Cersei insight
I
all the
know,
time.
she's our Cersei whisperer.
One thing we're not going to have, it looks like, is Jaime coming back to possibly interfere with her doing that.
Probably
because
not in
he's
one
over
episode.
at the Twins for some kind of scene.
Oh, you're right. For some celebration from Walder Frey, which everyone's been saying will be Red Wedding 2.0.
Yeah.
We'll see if that comes to fruition.
Who's going to be the perpetrator?
Yeah.
Brotherhood?
Probably
They're the only
Brotherhood.
ones available.
They
Brotherhood.
were they south of the Twins?
I think they were around that
Yeah,
area,
I think they were
yeah.
close. Assuming that where Sandor convalesced was near where he got hurt. He originally got hurt near the Vale.
Yes.
So assuming he convalesced close to that, and then he found the Brotherhood, that this is all in the area of the Vale, that's pretty close to the Twins.
Yeah.
It would make sense. Not that the show is too concerned with distances and everything.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
Joel,
Joel.
you're bouncing up and
I
down.
know,
What's
I know.
up, man?
Graessle and I had a conversation that I want
As
to
I've
hear your
heard.
thoughts on. Yeah, we were
What's up?
talking a little bit. One, the Brotherhood that we saw,
Yeah.
that's not many guys, so they would need a lot more. Number two, what if there's this, I don't know, other offshoot of the Brotherhood being led by one Lady Stoneheart who makes an appearance in this
Joel,
episode? What if that happened?
I would punch the TV if they because that would just be a fuck you.
Yeah, the last episode would have been a fuck you
Yeah.
if
I
she
mean-
eventually turns up.
They
It would
won't.
It would just be
they're not
totally
gonna do
different
that.
because her mechanism for coming back involves Barrack.
Barrack,
dying.
yeah. So
And
they're
the fact that he's still
yeah,
alive.
they're not going to do it, but
It is
so
a big mystery what could happen there and
it's
how.
Yeah, the Brotherhood is a possibility.
I saw someone online making a really good point that at the Red Wedding, Robb was shot with arrows, then stabbed like in the gut by Roose, and then Catelyn's throat was slit.
Right.
The Red Wedding was orchestrated by Tywin Lannister, Roose Bolton, and Walder Frey.
Yeah.
Tywin Lannister gets shot with arrows.
Yeah.
Roose Bolton gets stabbed in the gut by Ramsay. I want to see Walder Frey's throat get slit.
I think there's a high possibility of that.
Yeah. I take no credit for that. That was someone online.
I'm really curious to see who it is who ultimately carries out this kind of revenge. I do think the Brotherhood is
Most likely.
Most likely.
What if Arya pops up?
I really wish I hadn't fucking thought of that stupid Manderley thing.
Tell us.
Okay.
What'd you think of?
Sure, Graessle. Rewrite the Battle of the Bastards.
Here was my dream scenario for the Battle of the Bastards.
This is Great Northern Conspiracy.
This is Great Northern Conspiracy stuff. If anybody has listened to any of our reviews, they know how much of a Great Northern Conspiracy slappy I am. But my dream scenario is that this episode would have opened with Arya landing in White Harbor, where she's taken captive and like thrown in the dungeon by the Manderleys, and then brought to a secret meeting with Wyman, where Wyman delivers the North Remembers speech. And intercut with that is the Manderley Knights turning on the Bolton forces in the Battle of the Bastards. We didn't get that.
There were no Manderleys
There
to be
were
seen.
no Manderleys. There was not a mermaid in sight.
That was a merman.
It is a merman, you're right.
Yeah.
That's their sigil?
Yeah. So, yes, it's very unlikely that we will get any Manderleys, but I wonder...
It's been so conspicuous, their absence. They've been mentioned, but they haven't appeared. I wonder if they'll come next episode.
And the revenge taken place, the motivation for revenge in the books by the Manderleys is primarily against the Freys. Because one of the Manderley sons is killed in the Red Wedding. So I'm curious if there might be something with that at Twins now.
The thing,
but there's no groundwork.
There's
for that.
no groundwork.
That would be like the Red Wedding. You understood why, as you were just saying, James. This would be totally with new characters, even totally out of left field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the show isn't going to include the massive White Harbor army and fleet that Wyman Manderley has at his disposal.
Yeah.
They're another big untapped force in the books. I'm guessing without Wyman Manderley, even though he was cast, or at least the casting call, that's the one thing I can think. There was a casting call for someone who fits Wyman Manderley to a T. 60-year-old man, very overweight, gives a rousing speech about changing allegiances to the North. That's Wyman Manderley. I'm guessing maybe he got cut, or somehow he's in episode 10. But it'd be weird to just introduce him and have Frey pies everywhere and have a Red Wedding 2.0.
Yeah, it would.
Frey pies
What's
is
a Frey
the,
pie,
is the best
we
thing.
can't spoil Frey pies.
Okay,
from
well
the books that
maybe I
isn't
don't.
in the show.
Okay,
No,
I won't tell
no.
you. But the fact that the show isn't doing it, I'm just like, show.
It's an injustice.
Yeah, show. This is something that your audience would eat up. Literally, it would be so good, and everyone would love it.
It is an injustice if they've cut the Manderleys from the show.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. In any case, something's got to go down there. It's curious that Jamie's there. I do wonder how that's going to work out.
And it is likely to be a Red Wedding 2.0 because in the preview they evoke it. They say the Freys and the Lannisters send their regards.
Right.
Which
I love how it's
was
just
said
a
at the
story that they tell now. Hey guys, remember we did that thing? Remember the words we said? Oh, it was a great line.
Yeah, I mean, but that's Walder Frey though. Like, he's just so happy. He's just so happy about.
Can't wait for him to die.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird that Ramsay's dead?
Oh, we should. I guess
It's so good that he's dead.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that.
How long have we been running?
48. We're at 48, so
All right.
we should probably start wrapping
Talk
up.
about them
I'm feeling
doggies.
tired. All those technical issues drained me.
Oh
so
my
is
God,
there any?
what a drag.
That was, guys. If any of you were in that live stream, you saw the frustration. There were tears and sweat.
You saw half the frustration.
Before we start to ravel down, is there anything besides Ramsay's death that we're gonna want?
Got a couple of stray thoughts.
Hit us up with your straight thoughts, Joe.
Stray thoughts right here. I think it's interesting that part of Dany's conditions for accepting the pact with the Ironborn is that they can no longer reave and rape and do what they do.
You think Yara's gonna stick to that? I don't think the Iron Island are gonna be.
I don't think they'll support
I don't think
that,
that the Iron Islanders are going to be cool with that.
Yeah.
Like, just on a baseline, how would they live? Would they be given tracts of land on the mainland of Westeros?
Probably on the Stony Shore,
Stony Shore, I would
around
imagine.
that area, just something to do. Because, again, sorry, in the books, that's Yara's whole pitch to them is like, hey, this way of life isn't sustainable. Let's expand to these areas and grow crops and shit and be sustainable and flourish. And then Euron comes in with his big dick speech.
Yeah.
Although it's less big dick and more like, I'm a mysterious god man.
Yeah.
And,
The rest of them are just like, no, climate change isn't real. We can keep using up the world the way we do.
So yeah, I think maybe that's getting to the same point as in the books with Yara wanting to do that kind of thing. But yeah, if she's the first queen of the Iron Islands and her first act is to say, hey, our way of life is over, no way the Ironborn are cool with that.
I don't think that's going to play out at all in the show, though. Like, we just don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to get an additional. James dropped his phone, everybody.
Thanks.
We're not going to get like an additional subplot of like descent among the ranks of the Ironborn.
We'll have to see some kind
We
of
still have
resolution.
Euron.
Once,
We're gonna
yeah,
deal
and we
with
still
him.
have Euron.
Yeah, but I think that's going to ultimately lead to something disappointing. Like, it's going to be like a dragon's going to eat him or some shit like that. Like, it's going to be a non-issue.
Oh.
Basically, there's enough here that I feel like they don't need to have a 7-episode season next season. Like, give it 10. There's enough material there, enough interesting conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they could go for 10 more years. There's enough interesting conflict, but whatever. They want CGI battles.
What's your other stray thoughts, Joe?
Another straight thought. Wan Wan. It was
R.I.P.
sad to see him die, and you know he was on the right side of history for the right cause, but he was so far from home, not fighting for giants, not even fighting for free men, fighting, you know, for first men against other first men, for the right cause, but just so disconnected from, you know, his people.
I think he's fighting for Jon, though. I think that the respect that Jon showed, not only the wildlings, but giants even as a people, is something. Oh, James accidentally played Jack Nagar on his phone.
Really had to plug that one, huh?
Sorry.
I think that he's following respect. It's the same. Jon is leading the same way kind of Mance did, and Tormund invoked Mance in this episode, and I think that that's what Wan was following, and I think that that's why the moment that we had with Wan right before his death was not with Tormund, it was with Jon.
I'm surprised that One's the biggest protagonist that we got dying. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess Rickon, but One had more lines than Rickon this season.
Rickon had no lines.
But
Heavy breathing.
in retrospect, it does make sense that Tormund was spared because if he's gone, who's the voice of the wildlings?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, you could have wiped out the wildlings
That's true.
in theory,
Yeah,
but
there weren't that many. But
no, I think we're gonna get Tormund is going to help reestablish one of the two more northern houses in the north with the Karstarks and the Umbers, who we saw eliminated in this episode. One of which by Tormund. So I wonder if Jon or Sansa, whoever ultimately controls the north, will just grant Tormund Last Hearth.
oh, that'd be cool. I wonder if we're going to see the fate of Harold. Is it Harold Karstark?
Sure.
The younger Karstark who was allied with Ramsay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't directly see him die.
Yeah, we saw him a bunch in the episode before the battle.
Yeah.
I hope that some of the houses that we haven't seen, like we've seen the ones who rebelled or who didn't want to come back to the Starks, but I hope that some of the other ones, like the Glovers, will support them now.
Yeah, come and pay fealty to the meet the new boss kind of thing.
Same as the old boss.
In a way.
But they'll flay you a little bit less.
Yeah.
Any other stray thoughts, Joe?
I think that's it for straight thoughts. Although, you know, just good on the people of the show knowing their dates. Had a little Father's Day shout out.
Yeah.
All of our fathers were terrible.
Let's make a better world.
Yeah. I loved seeing here's a stray thought. I loved seeing the Stark banner unfurled at Winterfell. Stood up and cheered.
I like how they primed us for that in the last episode with the Lannister and Frey banners unraveling over River Run.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so this is a big deal, like the banners flying, and oh, this kind of sucks, that's Lannisters and Freys. And then they're like, don't worry, we got you. Here's a big old direwolf.
Yay.
I hope that they updated the intro next episode to have the wolf back on it.
I hope so as well.
Yeah, you'll be so excited.
I'll be pumped.
And then maybe after that, the Mockingbird.
That's all James wants.
We'll see.
I just want Littlefinger
It's a
to
real
have a
problem.
Winterfell.
That's a big ass army up there. Who knows who they'll be loyal to?
Exactly. And Littlefinger, I just love so much, not just because I cosplay him, but he's a man he's a small man, and he doesn't have the physical power to rule like as a knight, which I can relate to. So he has to rely on his brains. And he just has all this. I mean, I could go on forever, but his shit is so personal. All of his machinations are just because he had such a hard-on for Catelyn, and it was unfulfilled, and that's all he wants. He doesn't want the Iron Throne. He wants Winterfell because fuck Ned Stark. And that's like, yeah, Littlefinger.
It's not even fuck Ned Stark. It's fuck Brandon Stark, who's been dead for decades.
I wonder if John, like you were saying, being a good judge of character, is going to see that affection for Sansa and somehow be able to use it. Like if this.
Oh,
I don't know.
John's
John
not
can't.
that savvy.
No,
John
is
is not that smart.
I just kind of hope that we're going to see maybe Littlefinger get a little bit.
John might be intuitive. He's not cunning.
I don't know. I wonder if Littlefinger is going to have not be able to see things as strategically, as objectively as he usually might.
Oh, that's true.
I think that's already starting to happen, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His
was taking
infatuation with Sansa
the Knights of the Vale up there
the
the best idea for him politically? Maybe.
But to James's point, politically doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, he
He's
just
so
has his
close
goal.
to achieving his personal goal that it's inconsequential. Politics are inconsequential.
Oh, also, I know a lot of people online are wondering why Sansa just didn't tell Jon about the Knights of the Vale, and the conclusion we came to is just she didn't know for sure if they were going to show up.
Yeah, she didn't want Jon to change his tactics based off of knowing that there was going to be this mounted force perhaps arriving.
As far as we know, she never heard back from Littlefinger after sending that letter, not until they showed up.
Right. So I think that Sansa made the right choice in not telling Jon about it because it could have been catastrophic.
Yeah, even saying, hey, I wrote and we might get some knights, like that could screw with his plans. Mm-hmm. And then I think someone online I saw made a really good point of if Jon had waited to attack, Ramsay might be suspicious and hole up in Winterfell, and then what are you going to do?
Yeah, there's no way you can lay siege to Winterfell. It's impossible to take Winterfell by siege.
Yeah. All right. Ramsay's dead.
Ramsay's dead.
Ramsay's dead.
Jim, you really liked that one shot. I loved it too, but
I did love
you're
that
the one who
shot.
Face bite?
vocalized it.
No, not the face bite.
Oh, I know
think
which one you mean.
There were 2 or 3 shots in this episode that I think were some of the best single shots we've seen, not only this season, but probably in the last couple years of Game of Thrones. And I think that one was the dragon shot we mentioned earlier, where the dragon's in the deep background. Mm-hmm. The other was Davos at Shireen's pyre, where the sun's rising in the background. It was
the horn blowing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And I think that the last one is the shot where Sansa, when the dogs start to kill Ramsay, where Sansa starts to turn away and then doesn't, and then stays to watch, was so amazing. And Sophie Turner, like that could have been overdone. It could have been overacted.
Same thing with the little half smile she has walking away.
Right, but it wasn't. And between Sophie Turner and Miguel Sapochnik, the director, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, they nailed the way Sansa reacted to that, and I think that was very satisfying. It would have been amazing if Sansa had grabbed fucking Longclaw and taken off his head or something.
For sure.
But
I was hoping for that in
that's
the
for
yard.
Littlefinger.
That yeah.
Because as bad as Ramsay was to her, Littlefinger's the one who put her in that situation.
Right, and
Yeah, so I like that she mostly was the cause of Ramsay's death, but was still a little hands off. Whereas with Littlefinger, who is kind of like her big bad, I think she'll be hands on, unless Theon just kills him for her.
He's also a major big bad for the Stark family, and it'd be nice if he's going to get comeuppance for a little more of what he's responsible for to come out.
Absolutely, yeah.
To them.
How do you guys feel about what we saw of Ramsay's demise?
With the hounds eating him?
Yeah.
Well, one, it's thematically great that he was killed by hounds. Although, where the fuck was Ghost?
Yeah,
probably
Ghost.
was CGI budget due to those dragons.
I would have liked a line saying that, Ghost doesn't belong in this battle. Ghost is going to stay home.
Ghost would not have survived that battle, so I'm not.
But Ghost could have saved Rickon. He could have ran up to Rickon. Rickon could have hopped on his back and rode to safety.
That's true.
Are they that big in the show?
Oh,
Ghost is.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Rickon's a little guy anyway.
Yeah. I still would have loved a line at some point this season from Rickon, just to know who he is at this point.
Yeah. Whatever. He was always a shaggy dog
Yeah,
story.
he
dude.
just represented like a male Stark heir. Yeah.
But no, I mean, in terms of how much we actually saw of Ramsay, did you feel like? I'm sorry, I'm gonna sneeze.
Enjoy that audio.
R.I.P. headphone users. No, I think it was a great amount. I didn't need to see his skin getting eaten by dogs.
I appreciated that it wasn't an immediate attack, that there was sniffing, there was licking, and then him sort of saying just like, no, go down, 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 and then the full-on bite.
Mm-hmm.
I think the sound design did enough for it.
Yeah,
the
shot of his hand.
The shot of his hand. I was just gonna say that I really loved the shot of his hand being covered in blood. I think that was enough.
Yeah, it's weird having him dead. Who do we hate now? Joffrey's gone, Tywin's gone, Ramsay's gone. Is the only one left to hate like the evil Night's King that we don't know anything about? Euron, maybe.
Euron, the Freys. If the Freys go,
the Freys are going to be gone next episode.
I feel like it's going to be an awesome place of like sympathy for everyone, but seeing and understanding how they're going to come into conflict with each other.
I think that's what we're going to. They're setting us up for, though. Is they're setting us up to kind of unite against a bigger issue.
I hope that the last 2 seasons aren't just our heroes versus the unexplained bad guys, though, because like we said, I agree with you. Walder Frey's probably going to be gone. Ramsay's gone. Cersei, I mean, she's way more relatable in the show than in the books. Sympathetic, I mean, but she'll probably be gone sooner rather than later. If not next episode, probably early next season, I'm guessing. Yeah. But with all those characters gone, yeah, Euron will be around, but we'll have too many heroes and not enough villains. And as opposed to all of them being united against the White Walkers, which is some sort of endgame, but I do want to see conflict between them. I do want to see conflict between Jon and Dany, 2 fan favorites, because, those characters would come into conflict. They shouldn't avoid it just because the people watching the television show like them.
No, I agree, but I think that it's going to be a little bit frustrating. It's going to be difficult for the showrunners, and I'm sure it's very difficult for George R.R. Martin to figure out how all these things are going to come together at the end, because that is kind of unsatisfying to just be like, now it's everybody against this faceless evil.
Yeah, easy to root for, boring to watch.
Right. So I have no idea. I hope they can pull it off.
Because we're going to have the potential for a major conflict of succession if we get the reveal and if Jon gets the reveal that he is a Targaryen. But you're right, with the White Walkers being such a huge threat, it would be easy for everyone to ally, but I hope that there'll be room for more, political and interpersonal conflict from characters that we like and understand who may not understand each other.
Yeah. I don't know, the time for politics might be over very soon. I don't think the wall's coming down this season, but it'll be soon enough.
We'll get your third act of fantasy.
Yeah. I forget if I explained that in a live stream. I'm not going to go into it right now.
Yeah.
But
hey, there's still hope. We hate Dorne, so
yeah,
everybody
can
against
Dorne.
Yeah.
All right, you guys have any more thoughts about this awesomely directed episode?
I think that, predictability aside, I think it was a very successful episode. I really enjoyed it. I think it was incredibly well made. It was a difficult thing to accomplish, and I think that they did a great job of it. Looking forward to what happens next week with the fallout. I want to see the aftermath. I think that that's where a lot of the criticism is coming from, is that we don't yet know what the aftermath is. So looking forward to next week.
Yeah, and I just think it was the best battles and actions I've ever seen in a TV show.
I agree.
It was just so amazing, and I'm really glad it was an extended episode because I just never wanted it to end. Joel, anything?
I mean, I just really hope, Shaggy Dog's okay. Shaggy Dog's fine, right, guys?
You're just Shaggy Dog truther.
Yeah. Just want all the wolves to be okay.
Shaggy Dog's fine.
I'm looking forward to more.
Lady's fine. Summer's fine.
They're all fine.
They're all fine.
Yeah, those zombies were just giving Summer a hug.
Those were just regular dogs.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening to this. Sorry about the live stream, but it was you're not missing out on too much.
It was basically
visually,
this.
Yeah. You are missing out Chelsea's insight, which is a big loss.
Yeah, she had some really good points that nobody probably heard.
Yeah, but we Graessle, me, and Chelsea will record a What's on the Box tomorrow. Hopefully get that out to you before the next episode. Again, they're very difficult to edit, and we all have limited time, so we'll do what we can. In the meantime, check out all of our other What's on the Box episodes. Check out all our other Game of Thrones content on the channel. Lots of fun stuff there.
Get ready for book club coming later in the summer.
July 17th will be our first book club meeting. We'll have a video with an update and more information for you soon. And besides that, I'm looking forward to the finale next week, and hopefully we'll have a functioning live stream for it.
Yeah.
Sunday night.
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.